Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode here on Fast Break Live for IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for sports. On tonight's episode, we're going on the first weekend of the NCAA Tournament. Who were the surprises, shockers for everybody in the first round? We'll discuss that. Plus, what is John Calipari's future at Kentucky? Another first round exit to a double-digit seed. What's the future store for him and Kentucky basketball? We'll discuss that. Does anybody want the damn Louisville job? Seems like everybody's going elsewhere. We'll discuss that as well. Plus, the NCAA Tournament women's is action. Can Caitlin Clark in Iowa make it all the way to the big Final Four? And plus, what got Kim Mulkey so shook about the Washington Post writing a story about her? We'll discuss that and all the scores around the NCAA Tournament on this episode of Fast Break, and you're welcome to join us. And joining us as you shout tonight, ladies and gentlemen, lots to talk about, lots to get into here tonight. Right now, as we currently sit, the NCAA Tournament first weekend is finishing up right now. Right now, my TV is Alabama Grand Canyon with Alabama, and it could be like a minute delay because I'm on the internet with this. But Alabama is going to the half up 38-30 against Grand Canyon, the 12th seed out in the West. Alabama, the 4th seed in the West. The winner of this game will play North Carolina in the Sweet 16 next week. But D-Lock, how are you doing tonight, sir, in this wealth of basketball we've been watching over the weekend?
Everything's going pretty well, man. A lot of upsets going on, different things. So keeping everybody on their toes. I'm pretty sure a lot of people's brackets are jacked up right now.
Yeah, a lot of people's brackets are messed up, especially after that first weekend. As I watching the Alabama game going to half, Latrell Whiteshell, who's been a key player for the Tide, he hurt his head and seemed like he's not coming back into the game. He's already in street clothes, so he will not be back in the game against Grand Canyon, which is going to very, very hurt very much for the Tide. So something to monitor there. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in with us here on another broadcast here on IE Sports Radio, your direct field for sports. The NCAA Tournament is here. We're talking about it. Lots of good games, lots of blowouts on the men's and women's sides. D-Lock, overall, what has been your reaction to the NCAA Tournament? What's the vibe? What's the vibe like to you so far in this first weekend as we watch these games?
Well, things been going on. A lot of upsets. You know what I mean? A lot of different things going around. So, for me, I feel like with that, this is showing. We talked about it off air. The biggest thing is the transfer portal being open. I think that's playing a big part in some of these results, being the fact that teams are, coming to get some of these quality players. But a lot of these teams that we, had penciled in, I for one, and I did get joked before, I had Kentucky going pretty far. They got their ass booted out quick.
Yeah.
And then, Auburn follow suit right after. This tournament, as I said before, anything can happen. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of different things happen. You have to come ready to play. We talked about it before. I believe it was Purdue that got put out last year, the first round. We wanted to make sure that these teams came to play the first round. And it seemed like some teams did and some teams didn't. So in my mind, like I said, I think that a lot of these teams just want an opportunity, and that's all it's about. once you get in the tournament, anything can happen. We've seen it with for years of college basketball in March Madness. Hell, we've seen it in NFL playoffs as well. And we're also seeing a little bit of it in college football, but we'll see more when they extend the playoff bracket. So I think it's a big thing. And this first round is something very crucial. And a lot of teams are taking advantage. All they want to do is get a chance to get on the court with the rest of these teams. So I really remember one of the players this past week saying he knows that he's not going to go to the NBA, but he just want to have a chance to compete against these other players and these other teams. And that's all they ask for. So the fact that they get that opportunity, these are the results that you're getting. So, a lot of teams do get that number one seed. Actually 4 teams do. They get the ranks from 1 to 16 each region. And the expectations are big for those top teams. So now, like I said, you look at this situation, and some of these teams are falling apart. And also some of the teams are stepping up to the plate. So for me, this is why we love March Madness, because we see upsets all the time. So I think that's big. I think we'll continue, to see that.
I think for me, the vibe so far has just been like, it's like, you're watching your teams, you're watching your teams and squads who you root for. They're like pins and needles, especially in that first half. Like if it's close, it's like pins and needles. Like earlier today, I was watching LSU women's in Middle Tennessee, and it's like this pins and needles. Early on, like you didn't know how LSU was gonna come out and play, because just the other day, yesterday, you seen Kim Mulkey doing press conference talking about the Washington Post that's going to do like a an article about her about something. So you kind of watching her and seeing how she acts and all that type of stuff. You know how she is, and then you kind of wonder like, well, is this team gonna be distracted enough that she could be out of focus for a game against Middle Tennessee? In which they kind of blow the doors open on Middle Tennessee in the second half, but that first half, it was kind of like, I don't know. Kind of like the previous game, like the first round game, that was kind of, I don't know. Lucky for the women's, uh, lucky for them, they won all that stuff. But you kind of look at how they played today against Middle Tennessee, and like, I don't know. And then you got Creighton and UCLA later on this tonight. About to tip off here about like 15 minutes against Creighton. If UCLA wins and they get messed up at LSU, LSU. I mean, if LSU get down big to UCLA, they ain't gonna come back on that one. You can kiss that opportunity goodbye, which is gonna suck because I want to see that LSU Iowa matchup again, but here we are. But then you look at the men's side. Go back to that men's side real quick. Kentucky, like the past few years, like Cal and them have been put out the first round by these double-digit schools. I mean, double-seeded schools, whether it's like Oakland, St. Peter's, or whoever you want to throw in there. Man, it's just like after that game, D-Lock, and this has been brewing for a while with Kentucky fandom and whatnot. Like them losing to Oakland wasn't like this like crippling loss. This kind of been brewing for a little while with Cal and Kentucky fans and probably some boosters as well. And them going out to Oakland like this, got a lot of people like saying, "Hey, man, we appreciate Cal." Well, some do, but we need something else. And, the vibe of the weekend is like a lot of coaches coaching for their job. A lot of coaches coaching for a new opportunity as well. As we saw with Dusty making the head coaching job in Michigan. So the vibe for the weekend for me, D-Lock, is like, have you seen the trend for the past few years in the NCAA tournament? It's like pins and needles. Who's going to rise? Who's going to stumble? And, we're seeing like a lot of it today. Like, today and over the weekend, James Madison came out and punched Wisconsin in the mouth and didn't let up. But then you come back today, go against Duke, and Duke kind of punched them down and didn't let up. Same thing with South Carolina, North Carolina. I thought they're going to try and put 100 on those girls at the end of that fourth quarter. So the vibe for me for the weekend, some very good games. I was highly entertained, with some, especially Auburn losing. I don't know. It's like me and like Kentucky losing was good for me, but then Auburn, all the Barners talking, and they go out like that. Which almost kind of went to bed himself. But then they lose. I laughed. I said, "Oh my goodness, how you go out like that?" But I'll let you have enough word.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that to have so much expectations, I mean, this is another team, that I believe we went over. I'm pretty sure a lot of people had Auburn going pretty far, and they got their ass put out. So that's why, like I said, this is the reason why they play. You never know, what's going to happen. You never know who's going to do what. And it's a big thing to watch. I mean, because you get to watch all these games with the high expectations with them. And for me, first, like I said, I think Duquesne. I watched them, in my office beat BYU. You know, um, and Duquesne is literally down the street from University of Pittsburgh. So that was another one of the upsets that kind of was like, damn, like they started pretty early, ain't it? So, like I said, seeing all these other teams, Grand Canyon also pulled one off as well. So it's just like for me, seeing these different upsets play a very huge part, and hopefully, like I said, we'll continue to see these things. I was super shocked about Florida losing.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't think that was something that was going to happen so quickly. Having those high expectations, I thought, hey, well, at least they were going to, make some noise, at least get to the Sweet 16, possibly Elite 8 if things were, done correctly for them. But hell, they got their ass put out. So when you see this is why you watch, the tournament. These number one team, number two, and these top 5 teams that we have the expectation of, hell, they get put out. Some of them, sometimes it's a shocker, sometimes it's not. But I remember one of the questions you asked me was about how UConn, what kind of run was it going to be for UConn? Was it going to be challenging? Well, hell, now we thought it would be pretty simple. Hell, it got a little bit easier with Auburn getting put out. So this is what you like to see in a tournament like this, because the team that you don't have expectations for, they go out there and shock a lot of people. And when that happens, it gives these other teams, the number 16 team, ranked 16, ranked 15, give those that expectation to where they can make these things happen and be successful some type of way. So I love all of this, man. I think that this is good for the tournament, good for the sport, because you love to see when a team that is not expected to do something. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure you just got that update with Clemson holding off Baylor.
Yeah.
So when these things happen, like it's like, damn, okay, and they ended up facing Arizona. So I like again, this is why we love the tournament, and on top of that, to be honest, not to touch onto college football, but I believe that this is one of the reasons why college football is expanding their playoffs because they want to see things like this happen. So like I said, I know, the sucky part about all this is that's as much shit talking I do about one of the best conferences. They're not making me look too good right now.
Nah.
So, Kentucky, Auburn, and hell, Florida out of all the teams, all three of them. One of my best friends is definitely going to ring my phone when he, at the end of this week, talking about how the SEC teams couldn't get through the rounds, ranked pretty high.
I think, well, shout out to Terry Rodriguez in the chat. How you doing tonight, sir? Hope everything's going well for you. And, he brought up in the chat, who's been our bigger surprises for the better or worse. Like you just brought up about Florida. Florida was a surprise for me because just the way they've been playing, the way they play the SEC play, especially at home, and kind of somewhat carried over to the SEC tournament. And I thought, okay, maybe they the way they've been playing, I thought that maybe they can go a little run here in the tournament. But that didn't happen. They get beat by Colorado. And then, like you mentioned about the SEC as a whole, Mississippi State catch a beat down against Tom Izzo and crew. Which shouldn't be surprised because it's Tom Izzo and crew in March. So there you go. South Carolina, I had somebody, a team going to the Sweet 16. Maybe I thought maybe they could keep their surprise run going for this from the season into the tournament, but they catch will be down by Oregon. Like we just talked about Kentucky losing to Oakland. Tennessee having business against St. Peter's. And then you go to Friday, Yale beat Auburn. Colorado beat Florida. Texas A&M beat Nebraska. And then you had Alabama beat College of Charleston. So I don't know if like the bad juju that Greg Sankey said about the tournament, trying to expand and all that type of stuff, in which he started to sound like a real villain every time he speaks. But I don't know, like the bad juju he said before the tournament, trying to expand it and stuff like that, trying to get more of these big conference schools in the tournament. But that bad juju went to his SEC schools, and we've seen the results of it. Now, granted, Tennessee won against Texas yesterday, but who just said they're going to win next weekend and all that stuff. So, we'll see how Texas A&M do against Houston, which tips off here in a little bit. But like you mentioned about the SEC, not a great look for them in my eyes. And that's to Terry's question, that's what surprised me. Like the SEC play over the weekend. I'll throw another surprise in there, D-Lock. If I bounce to the women's side of things, I'm kind of surprised none of the big C's haven't gotten yet. Just kind of like something that's why I watch some of these women's games. Like I'm kind of surprised that nobody's really got the larger C's ain't getting gotten yet. So I'm kind of surprised by that as well. But I think the women's they kind of different in the men's because in the women's in the first round you'll see the big time losses and stuff like that compared to the men's. But I thought with the transfer portal and stuff like that, intertwined with the women's game as well, I thought maybe one of these big seed like top 4 seeds in these brackets would get caught, but they didn't. So the women still at least can keep that rep compared to the men's side of things.
I mean, I think that both, like I said, I think that on both sides of the tournaments, you do have a good, a good amount of competition on both sides. So, but also I think it's big that I think another thing we were expecting with LSU and Louisville to meet up, and that didn't happen. So again, having competition on both sides is going pretty well. Another thing too I noticed is that this tournament is going fast, man. Like, it seemed like we were literally just talking about it, and we're already pushing, making a lot of moves with the brackets already. So for me, I think the fact that it goes by so fast, but also the conference play is showing, on different teams, how big of a deal that is. For instance, like I said, I sat and watched Duquesne play for a while, and seeing the upset that they pulled up, I thought that was, very big. Getting a chance to do that. And I knew they was going to run into Illinois and have issues, but knowing what they did, and obviously having that rule of being the conference champion automatically in, they got a chance to get in and got an upset. So a lot of these teams get that opportunity and make that big difference whether they play in conference, win the conference or not. So I think that conference play does play a huge part in some of the results. But again, right now, it sucks to see the SEC on the men's side of just not looking so hot right now. I think on the women's side, not looking too bad for the SEC, obviously right now. But I think that it'll be a good thing moving forward if right now we can continue seeing these teams make that move. Like I said, I like what LSU is doing, especially on the women's side, and then obviously South Carolina. So again, you have some good teams in the same conference, but now we got to see how they pan out once the competition becomes stiffer. Because also, like I said, even on the women's side, the SEC is looking good with Ole Miss and Tennessee into it. So they're doing their thing, man. Like I always say, shout out to the SEC. So, but again, I think conference play does play a huge part, and I know it definitely prepares some of these teams for a big conference, or I'm sorry, not a big conference, but a big bracket.
And Alabama and Grand Cane tipping off the second half right now, so that's going on right now. UConn's up 35-14 against Northwestern. So, like you alluded to, about UConn, the path has got easier for them. Like FAU losing kind of made it easier for them, and then Auburn losing kind of made it easier for them. Now, I'm not saying they're gonna skate past San Diego State and then make it to the Sweet 16, but it's gonna be a little bit easier road for them. To make it to this back to at least the Final Four. So, also going over the scores, Marquette beating Colorado 81-77, in which watching that game, like Colorado had their chances at the end to kind of tie up the game and stuff like that, but just bad free throw shooting, missing wide open 3-point shots, and they couldn't just pull it off against Marquette, and Marquette hangs on to go back to the Sweet 16 for the first time in a long time. Purdue just beat the hell out of Utah State, 106-67. So Purdue back on that redemption tour from after burying himself last year. Duke handles James Madison, I thought, who would play a little bit better in today's matchup, but they lose 93-55 in that matchup. Filipowski had 14 points, 30 points for McCain. 8 for 11 for him for 3-point land, who led the way and shot the ball very well for the Blue Devils. James Madison really didn't have an answer and all that stuff at all to kind of continue contend with the Blue Devils, and they lose the game big there. And it kind of makes you wonder if that coach for James Madison, if he doesn't get picked off somewhere to co-coach, because we talk about the Louisville job being open. Dusty Mays up in Michigan, the coach from Drake, get his name right. Darian DeFries, he gets hired at West Virginia. So, so after that, I don't know. I mean, who's next to get picked off somewhere? There's the James Madison coach. Let me pull his name up. Mark Byington. Does he get picked out to go to Louisville? That a fair question right there. Because Louisville needs something. Hey, you win like 30-plus game at James Madison. Hopefully you can come into the ACC and do the same thing there. So, you got that going for yourself. To finish out the scores real quick, Clemson, like D-Lock brought up, hangs on for from a comeback from Baylor, 72-64. Clemson in the Sweet 16. I think the first time in a long time right there. And then to top it off for tonight, like I said, Houston, Texas A&M about to tip off here momentarily. And then you got Yale and San Diego State as well to finish out the night between those two schools there. D-Lock, after watching all these first round games in the men's side, after kind of seeing the dust settle a little bit, who is still your title favorite in your eyes?
Well, I did have damn show had Kentucky going pretty far, so that definitely hurt me with that. But even with them being out, I think that UConn looks like they're gonna make a lot of noise, and I think they're going to be the team that's going to make that big difference. And I think that right now, they, especially with Auburn getting put out, I think that they're going to play a big part. I think they're going to make their big move. I think that their bracket is going to be, we had already had questions of how it would be for them, but now, like I said, when you move out a team like Auburn, who supposed to be very challenging to them, they're out now. I mean, maybe San Diego State challenges them. Without that, I think also, obviously, North Carolina is going to play a big part. So I think that, UConn has a good chance. You still got a lot of good teams left. But I just think that now, I think UConn's easily going to be a team in the Final Four in my mind. Obviously, I think Iowa State will bring some attention, but that UConn be fine with them. North Carolina is gonna bring some problems as well. But for me, I think this is gonna be UConn's year. If they can put things together. Obviously, now I'm saying that. What about my Final Four team is all jacked up? But I think this is gonna be UConn's year. If they can continue to play how they're playing. I think it's going to come down between them and UConn. Whoever wins that game between those two, which I think will be UConn, be national championship.
I think after looking at the dust settle, I think UConn is the heavy favorite, and I think Houston's right behind them. I think the 4 number 1 seeds have very good odds, especially how the first weekend has went. All that stuff. So I think the odds of there has gone pretty good for them, but because I watched, right now at halftime, UConn just put a beat down on Northwestern, 40-18. I think one team you can't sleep on how they played is Illinois. They played well against Morehead State. They beat down Duquesne the other night. Now, I'm not saying, when they play 6-16, against Iowa State, it's not going to be easy. And I think probably one of their stronger games to date, but don't sleep on an Illinois team to possibly make it to the Final Four. Now they got to get past UConn to get to there, but don't sleep on them. And then I think another intriguing matchup come to Sweet 16 is Gonzaga and Purdue. Gonzaga just put an ass whipping to Kansas. And this is like we did our bracket preview, man. D-Lock. It was like, I wasn't high on Kansas like that. I was not. And I'll be honest with you, Sanford on that game Thursday, they got robbed of some calls towards the end there. Like the block shot they called a push in the back when old boy fell and kind of just stay on the ground. That was a bad call. And you look at the replay, that was a bad call. And that's like one of those Kansas calls there. And like I said, some of y'all probably listened to that broadcast last week coming side on me, coming looking crazy and stuff like that, saying Sanford get Kansas. Like, don't be surprised. And Sanford almost did it. They didn't get robbed with some calls. And then you come into the next game against Gonzaga, and they get their ass whipped. So Gonzaga and Purdue, that'd be a good game to kind of keep an eye on there. Can it contain Zach Edey, who's been playing pretty well for the first 2 games. Creighton, Tennessee is going to be a real interesting matchup as well. I know Tennessee can match up fine defensively, but can they match up with the scoring power fire of the Blue Jays? So that's another thing as well. I want to talk about this, D-Lock. Kentucky, before we get out of it, I want to talk about Kentucky, John Calipari. We kind of touched on like a little bit all that stuff here, but Kentucky is one of those jobs in all of not just college sports, but all sports that's kind of like one of those prestigious holds. You know what I'm saying? If you look at like being the Yankees coach, LA Lakers head coach, Alabama football coach, Michigan, Ohio State, North Carolina Duke head coach, Kansas, and Kentucky. That's just like one of those jobs you always want to have. Like one of those like rare premium jobs. And then I think you can throw all 32 NFL teams as well, because it's like one of those premium jobs as well. When Cal got that job years ago at Kentucky, it was like, okay, did well at Mass, went to the NBA, didn't work out so well. Went to Memphis, did a great job there. And then, Billy Gillespie did his deal there and shot himself in the foot. And then they called Cal, and then they got Cal there, and then Cal kind of really transferred that team and stuff like that to a whole different level. But ever since Cal been there, D-Lock, it's just like he's had success, but it's not been the success that of all the talent that has come over the years that doesn't warrant a lot of praise if you look at the job and the situation that is in. In your opinion, after this loss and the losses that the past few years in the tournament, which way do Kentucky basketball go? In your humble opinion, with Cal and all that stuff?
Well, in my mind, Calipari is in a very similar situation than Nick Saban's and other coaches. You somewhat let those guys go out when they want to, or let them retire. It'd be very tough to see Kentucky actually announce that they relieve him from his duties or they let him go. I just think that with his resume, how many players he's had and the things he's done, like, you have to get to the point to where he's done all these different things. It's hard to just say, hey, well, yeah, we're going to let this guy go. Because there's somebody that you have to replace, and Kentucky has high expectations. So for me, I don't think that they come to that conclusion of just letting him, going to, hey, we're going to let you go. That's very tough to see them do that. But I think that, Calipari is, one of the greatest coaches ever. And, for him specifically, it's hard to see them just say, hey, all right, well, we want to go ahead and get you up out of his office and bring somebody else in. I think he's one of the guys that you kind of let him retire or move on, which he's had multiple different opportunities, obviously. With so much success he's had, he could have easily been coaching, on a professional level. I think Orlando Magic at one point was looking at trying to get in contact with him or try to get him, but Calipari stayed there, and I think respectfully, Kentucky should give him that, where they don't fire him. He's a guy that retires from there. If they want to have it look like that, or they give him the chance to retire on his own, I think that's the smartest way to go about it because right now, he's still one of the better coaches of college basketball, and to let somebody like that leave or to fire somebody like that, I think that would show the respect that he has earned there.
I'm looking right now, and just looking at the record. Especially the postseason run. Like 2020, okay, COVID, all that stuff, you can excuse that. But the last three runs, out the first round, out the first round, out the first round. 2019 made the Elite Eight. Before that, Sweet 16. And then there's one year that he didn't make the tournament. He went to NIT and he lost in the first round there. It's just like, you're at this job, you know what I'm saying? And you know the expectations. You come in and you sell something that sounded pretty good at the time. And he took good advantage of it on the one and done deal when the NBA made that a rule because all the flops in the high school players. I don't say a lot of flops, but it was enough to kind of make them. Great shot, Mark Sears. It was enough to like make the NBA kind of make that change in the collective bargaining agreement. And now, like Jay Bright brought up the point after their loss. I think the one and done thing, you got to get away from it. You can't, depend on these one and done guys to get the deal done. You really can't. You're going to have some guys with some experience that kind of lead the way, either homegrown or the transfer portal, in which Cal doesn't want to use the transfer portal. He's kind of like Dabo Sweeney in a sense. Because I don't hear no other basketball coach talking like that. And one person I think about in the college athletics that we don't like use the transfer portal is Dabo Sweeney. So and look where I hate to bring football to the conversation, but look where Clemson is at, football wise. Dabo is a great salesman. John Calipari is a great salesman. I think they both of those guys are long winded. They're both great salesmen, but sometimes don't use it to their advantage all the way. At certain aspects of things, they use it to their advantage to what they need, but don't use it all the way. Like in the transfer portal for Cal, like the kid that is made 10 3-points against him, the Oakland kid. Let me pull his name up. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. It's already it's the G. I know that for sure. Golkey. Now, say for instance, the Golkey kid was in transfer portal, coming off a Division II career, and you need some experience. When you have a dude like that off the bench for your squad, you got all these freshmen and stuff like that. But okay, I need like a veteran there. Okay, let's look at this kid from Division II. Okay, why not snatch up that kid, a nice veteran, and you can bring off your bench early on. Then, if one of your freshman stars ain't playing well, I know I can put this kid in the starting lineup and he can do what I need him to do. Stuff like that is like what has kind of hurt Cal and Kentucky over the past few years, and also coaching as well. Because it's like too many times. I don't know if he plays down to the competition, whatever, or these coaches coach their heart out in that one game because Kentucky is like, damn, dude, these teams get you every year in the tournament. So I know that in the contract that I looked early this year that start next season, they can, he could start a role as like kind of like a ambassador for the university. I don't think that happens, but I mean, something got to come ahead. I don't know what, but you can't continue going out in a tournament like this like the past few years. You can't. You can't continue to let these small schools make a name off of Kentucky like this. I'm not a big Kentucky fan, not like that. I can't stand the fan base. I think Kentucky basketball fans got a huge stick up their ass. But
right,
sometimes you got to recognize real, and the fan base. Like the video I posted on X got like 17,500 views. Kentucky fans were mad. Some of the comments, some of they're mad, they're frustrated, and look where we're at right now. They're talking about getting rid of Cal, but I caution Kentucky fans in this. I'll let you back in. Look at your neighbors in Louisville. Ever since Pitino's been gone, and rightfully so, ever since he's been gone, it's been coach after coach after coach. And after each coach, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. Especially Kenny Payne. Kenny Payne, he's like, he seemed like he's been like an agent for Kentucky to kind of bury that Louisville program. So be careful. Like I said, Cal got it good now, but who do you bring in to kind of keep things there, but kind of elevate things also?
the biggest thing also is who the if there's another coach or when there is, who he's following behind. You're following behind a coach who uh, has so many players to go to the NBA. You know what I mean? Just a few names. Bam Adebayo, Devin Booker, Anthony Davis, Julius Randle, Malik Monk. It can go on. Tyrese Maxey. It's multiple players, but because that have went to Kentucky and did a lot of good things. So you bring in another coach to follow under Calipari. He's got a lot of expectations that he's going to have to follow. And for me, I think that it's going to be a big deal. Whoever at that point they bring in, but it just at this point, do you let him ride that wave? Because I think at some point you bring in somebody, there's still going to be somebody that has to follow up because we know what Kentucky is known for. We know what their basketball team has been. So for me, I think that bringing in another coach at some point, which is going to happen because Calipari is going to retire at some point, whether it's this year or 10 years from now, or it may go somewhere else. It has to be the right time. Because like you said, Louisville had made that move, but now they're continuing to replace. And we've seen that in multiple sports, different levels where, a very good coach a very good coach leaves, and now they're continuing trying to replace this coach to get back to the level of competitiveness that they were. So, as you say, Kentucky fans understand what's going on now with high expectations, but do know when you do make that move to get another coach, these expectations are still going to be there. It's just that the coach that you have is going to have to reach those, and that's going to be something big. I think that as much as we talk about, a lot of players going into the league, Kentucky had a huge deal with that. Multiple um, multiple athletes continuing to go to the league. So for me, I think I said it's going to be a big deal when they do move on. I mean, and even to you know this more than anybody right now. Nick Saban is gone. They have a new head coach now, and he's going to have to live up to the expectations at Alabama. I don't know how long it's going to take him, however that's going to go, but he's stepping into a role where they just left, where a coach was literally competing in the national championship game, damn near every game, every year. The recruiting class was top 5 every year, top 3 every year. So, the expectations, for Alabama fans, and many are still going to see, hoping and seeing what he brings to the table. And I'm sure, once Calipari leaves Kentucky, they bring a new coach in, the same thing is going to happen there.
And I mean, you brought up the one and done thing. I mean, you can still do that, but it's just like you gotta have a mix. Like I just brought up, you gotta have a mix and balance. Or you tell these classes that you've been getting in, like not all of y'all are not NBA ready. Also, let's keep that in mind as well. Like some of these guys and gals, excuse me, like some of these guys that lead the league, they ain't ready yet. So, like watching the Alabama game now, Noah Clowney that went left and got drafted in the first round by the Brooklyn Nets. I don't think he played a whole bunch in the for the Nets this year, and they suck. Now that might change here for the rest of the season the way the Nets been playing. But I look at him like getting no time playing G League, and it could have been came to Alabama and may have been a lottery pick if he came in and played well. So some of these guys for Kentucky, have you seen over the years? Like did one and done thing kind of hurt Cal as well. Like we seen some of these guys at Kentucky, like they leave early and some have so careers, some become all stars, whatnot, NBA champs. But it's just kind of been like a mixed bag how he went about the one and done thing. In my humble opinion. So I mean, I don't know who they would get to replace Cal if they make that transition. I'm trying to take the top of my head, like who is out there to get. To be honest with you, D-Lock, it's like I top of my head. I mean, nobody really. I mean, Sean Miller, Xavier, maybe a choice. I really don't. I mean, the coach at Iowa State, maybe him. That's enough consideration as well. Ain't and like I said with Kentucky fans, like there ain't too many people that you can grab. You know, man, look at Bryce Drew. He's done a great job with Grand Canyon, but he's going to leave the comfort of that to go coach at Kentucky. So who knows? It's just tough to say. And also Cal's 65 years old too. So that's I'm not saying that's old because we've seen a lot of his peers coach to a late age, but also something else to think about as well. But I'll let you have the last word.
I mean, again, like I said, I think it'll be a very tough thing to do, knowing everything that he's done and everything that he will continue to do. But it's at this point, we have so many high expectations, for Kentucky. We've seen the major drop off a little bit, and it makes fans worried, and maybe have them consider. But also, I think that what's playing the part is this transfer portal is playing a huge part. And all this stuff is playing a huge part in all of college sports. And, being a coach in college sports, it is making a huge impact on a lot of, results that we've seen, jobs, different things. Because now, basically, an athlete can transfer within conference and play the next year, basically go anywhere they want, and different NIL deals going on. Now recruiting isn't as tough as it is anymore. You do the sales pitch, you make all the, you tell them how much the school wants and all that, but they also got the freedom to go anywhere else and team up and whatever. So now with the transfer portal, I think that is playing a huge part in all the sports. We've seen it, big deal in college football, and I believe we're starting to see a lot of it in college basketball. We usually see in college basketball those teams that have like 4 or 5 5-star commits that plan to go there and stay there and go for the championship. But now some of these kids are not only leaving, but they're going in conference to the rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that plays a huge part. Hell, me being a big Gator fan, I just seen Trevor Etienne, who transferred to Georgia, just have an issue, a little situation that he had going on. But how, in my mind, I'm still processing the fact that a Florida Gator transferred to Georgia. That doesn't even, match. But because of this transfer portal, we're seeing a lot of this happen in multiple sports in multiple ways. And I think that that's playing a huge part in, the expectations and how these teams perform. Because having that long list of 5 stars or 4 stars that you could redshirt, right, and they come back and play next year. Well, hell, some of them not even doing that. They may redshirt, but they're going to go somewhere else. So the time that we've seen Kentucky with numerous guys on the team, and hell, they backups could start somewhere else. That's actually happening now. And it's playing a huge part in rotation and different things. So these coaches, have a lot more work that they have to do because of, like I said, you can recruit and have a nice group of guys or girls or women. And now because of this transfer portal, you're seeing a big name go from one big school to another to join up. So, but again, I think that, Kentucky fans have to, be patient, understand what's going on, and let's see if Calipari can make his adjustments and get through this, because that's something that he's going to have to do. And we'll see where it goes. But also, like I said, I think Kentucky will continue being Kentucky. But to replace Calipari, that's probably going to be harder than that's going to be something that's very going to be hard to do.
So I think make sure you follow us on Twitter /X at FastBreakIESR. That's FastBreakIESR. And wherever that news drop by Calipari, will be there to post our reaction there and what happens to the future of Kentucky basketball and whatnot. Before we get here, D-Log, I want to go over the women's scores real quick with you. Today's scores. Right now, you got Baylor up 5 on Virginia Tech with 8:50 left in the third quarter in the second round there. You had Duke today beating Ohio State 75-63 in Columbus. The Duke Blue Devils move on to the Sweet 16. Like I mentioned earlier, South Carolina beat the crap out of North Carolina 88-41 as well. And yeah, Taryn, a lot of people had Kentucky going deep in their bracket. But it just didn't feel right for me, Kentucky going deep. I just never I never sensed it that Kentucky would go deep in the tournament. Just my opinion. Colorado over Kansas State 63-50 in Manhattan. LSU beat Middle Tennessee 83-56. That game is a lot closer than what the final score indicated. I know the final score says a lot, but watching that game, I feel like Middle Tennessee got hosed on some calls and stuff like that. On side note, LSU D-Log on the women's side. The Washington Post got an article about Kim Mulkey. And we know about Kim Mulkey, she puts a brave face every time she speaks. What you think the Washington Post got on her in that article that she got to come out and say something about it and threaten to sue on that stuff? What you think they got on her in that article?
That's kind of interesting, man. I mean, I think it's something that definitely has her ready to sue, which is a big deal. And it could have been a conversation that she's had, something that maybe could be somewhat true, but now saying it's false. Like, this is something that can probably end hurt her coaching career. You know what I mean? And with that, like, there a lot of times when people are successful, there's always something trying to bring them down. Something that's trying to interrupt what they have going on. So, but also when you are successful and being where she is, being more successful, like, they're gonna do the research on a person from when they were born. So they have all kind of stuff that they're trying to look up. Journalists are trying to look up everything that nobody knows about you, that they could possibly put out there, that can kind of get them that attention. So in my mind, I'm kind of scratching my head trying to see, what it could be as well. But also, her saying that, a certain reporter has been trying to interview her, for the past few years. Obviously, there's something that they want to ask. There's something that they want to know and get clarification on. So, for me, maybe it's something that she knows about, that she doesn't feel comfortable talking about, or something that could just be completely false that doesn't need to be talked about. So, to me, man, I'm still on the, trying to figure out what it is as well, especially if she's taking it so serious and public like that. So it has to be something that could threaten the career that she's in right now.
Real quick for me, I think to her make a statement like that and the press conference that she did, it had to be something. It had to be something. So, and watching Grand Canyon kind of making a comeback against Alabama. So, okay. All right. But I'll say like this. It has to be something. Now, the story didn't drop this weekend because, as we know, like news stories, if somebody wants something dumped, they'll dump it on like a Friday or something like that. But the fact that this didn't dump on like a Friday or a Saturday like this is kind of telling. So, I don't know. It's kind of interesting what this post is going to be about. And they've been trying to holler at her for the past couple of years. It's something. And I think something that we got to keep our eye on because, we hear stories about this woman over the years. And I know she burnt some bridges and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out for her. But that's a bad shot, Mark Sears. But I kind of fascinated, how this goes and what comes out in this story. Maybe something, maybe it's nothing. But with her though, it's just kind of like it's always like a bad stench with her. You know what I'm saying? So I'll just leave it at that. All that stuff. To finish out the scores real quick, Oregon State beat Nebraska 61-51. Texas beat Alabama 65-54 in Austin. And then later on tonight, you got Stanford against Iowa State. And kind of stick a good matchup there. And then you go back to yesterday's matchups. Tennessee beat the crap out of Green Bay 92-63. UConn beat Jackson State 86-64. Notre Dame beat Kent State 81-67. Kansas beat Michigan 81-72 in overtime. Indiana over Fairfield 89-56. NC State over Chattanooga 64-45. Iowa beat Holy Cross 91-65 in that matchup. And you got Syracuse beat Arizona 74-69. Oklahoma 70-70 over Florida Gulf Coast University. Get my words right. Ole Miss over Marquette 67-55. USC handles Texas A&M Corpus Christi 87-55. Creighton over UNLV 87-73. Gonzaga 75-56 over UC Irvine. West Virginia 63-53 over Princeton. UCLA beat the crap out of California Baptist 84-55. And finally, Utah beat South Dakota State 68-54. So those were the women's scores and matchups so far in the first round. A lot of beatdowns, stuff like that. On that part. D-Lock, any final words before we get out of here?
I mean, right now, just like I said, for those that still have their bracket intact, good luck, because a lot of people brackets are already jacked up. But again, this is why we love the tournament, man. Definitely am excited to see how this is going to go. Even on the women's side, I definitely want to see what LSU is going to do moving forward. Also with South Carolina.
Yeah, for the women's side, can the stars align for LSU and Iowa to meet in the Elite Eight? So that's thing to kind of keep an eye on. And also, can South Carolina stay undefeated?
Oh yeah.
The way they've been dominating, can they stay undefeated? So that's another thing to keep in mind there as well. In the women's side of things. But this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us tonight here on the show. All NCAA Tournament talk. Hopefully, like D-Lock said, your brackets are still good and intact. And I'm watching this Alabama game, and Jesus Christ. But anyways, thank you for tuning in with us tonight. Thank you, Terry Rodriguez, for your contributions to the chat. D-Lock, how can people find you on social media?
You guys can find me at BlackDash813. That is on Twitter /X. Let them know they can find you at the show's page.
You can find the show's page at Fast Break at IESR. That's Fast Break IESO on Twitter /X. Do check out IESportsradio.com for all your latest shows, news, and feeds as well. I should have made a shot. As well, for all your latest shows, news, and feeds. NCAA Tournament is going on. A lot of shows in the network. A lot of shows, regional shows, talk about these schools. So like a Grand Canyon, UCLA, USC women's, other schools, North Carolina, South Carolina. Get my point. So do check into those shows there. Do follow me on Twitter at Spawn4288. That's Spawn4288. Also, I do another show, so I cut the Crooks Process. Do follow that on Instagram and Facebook. Crooks Process. You see the CP logo there. Do give me a follow and like there as well. But till then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to y'all next week. Also, yes, here, San Diego State men's. So, do tune in with us next week. We'll be talking Elite Sweet 16, Elite 8 matchups. Get back to NBA talk as well. And the world of basketball is cooking right now. So, we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.